If that light, oh my God. Hello, this is Amanda Joy with the Joy Spring, and I forgot my book. Today I'm going to share my 7 keys of self-care that was inspired by this week's featured journal that has my favorite self-care activity in the back for easy access. If you are just beginning your self-care journey or are wanting to find ways to make your practice more meaningful, the 7 keys should be quite helpful. Be sure to hang out till the end where I will share an easy and effective guide to help you identify if a particular self-care practice is right for you and how to tweak it for maximum benefit. Let's get into it. Key 1, self-care is a state of mind. I could ask 20 people what self-care is and I'd get 20 different responses. Some see self-care as taking care of the body, and others feel like it's about pampering or caring for spiritual needs or taking time outs. And self-care could be expressed in all of these ways, but below these different ideas about it, self-care is a state of mind that centers around the nourishment of your mind, body, and spirit, and implementing practices to achieve that. Any activity or almost any activity can be a self-care practice with intention. My new favorite mini practice is when I've stopped at a red light. When I first started really paying attention to my thoughts, I'd notice myself thinking, oh my God, if that light turns red, I'm going to be pissed. If it did turn red, sure enough, I'd be pissed because I just mindlessly set myself up for that. Now when I approach an intersection, I think, I wonder what's going to happen. And if the light turns red, I've just been gifted a few moments to relax or seek out something beautiful, or a few moments to give some loving attention to myself. Key 2 is self-care is a practice that takes practice. And it's also not a one-size-fits-all deal. If you're just beginning your self-care journey, start where you are. Fit it into your life using things that bring you joy. One of my favorite built-in self-care practices is bath time. It's something I'm already doing, but I'm also creating a moment of quiet relaxation for myself. I make a cup of tea, I light a pretty candle, maybe I do a bath bomb, and I'm using an everyday task to give all of my senses something lovely to engage with. If the idea of taking a bath sounds gross, then check that off your list. Or if the idea of doing nothing conflicts with your values of needing to be productive, find a way, at least in the beginning, that doesn't conflict with your current sensibilities. If it stretches you too far out of your comfort zone or sets off triggers, start smaller. It's okay to take baby steps. Be gentle with yourself. Insert one small practice into your routine and get comfortable with that, then take another step. I'm not saying there isn't great value in getting out of your comfort zone. I personally am a fan, but when it comes to creating a self-care practice, gentleness is important. Just know that your comfort zone will still get bigger without you trying to punch through it. Key 3 is self-care is about nourishing your soul, not fulfilling an expectation. If you are using the phrase, if I only, or any similar phrase, your self-care practice may need tweaking. If you were only good at meditating, if you could only hold that yoga pose better, or if you only liked getting up at dark 30 to do your workout, then that isn't true self-care. It's meeting an expectation of what you think self-care should be or what you should be doing as a part of a self-care practice. It's okay to do what you think you should be doing, but don't make it part of your self-care routine. I know people that would rather be eating bacon than oatmeal because they need to, but that isn't a self-care routine, it's a health-care routine, and it's important to distinguish between the two. When I want to incorporate a new self-care practice into my routine, I filter it through the following 3 questions. And the first question is the most important question. Does this bring me joy? And the next question is, does this cause no harm or undue stress to myself or others? And finally, does this nourish my body, mind, and soul? If the answer is no to any of these, then rework the practice in a way that checks off all of these boxes. Key 4, self-care is making your emotional needs a priority. This means do not put self-care off until you think you have the time. If you cut yourself, even if you don't have a first aid kit handy, you're probably going to wash it off and cover it with the nearest tissue until you can properly tend to it. If you don't, it's going to get infected. It's the same thing with our emotional well-being. If you keep putting off tending to your emotional needs until you have time to fit it in, then it will start seeping into other areas of your life, compounding the problem. It's good to have an emergency self-care practice in your pocket for situations like this. You may not be able to offer yourself a grand gesture, but you can take a moment for yourself. The emergency tool that I created for myself is called the Calm Practice. I can do it anywhere as long as I can take at least one interrupted minute. And this is what it looks like. First step is I give myself some care in that moment. Sometimes I can only take a few deep and intentional breaths, but that's something. Next, I allow myself to feel however I am feeling without trying to fix it and without judging. And then I offer my loving attention to the part of myself that is feeling this way, like I would for my kiddo when he's feeling sad or scared or frustrated. And then finally, I keep my focus on that moment, realizing that this problem likely isn't actively existing in that space at that time. This week's featured journal has the complete tool along with journal prompts in the back section of the book, so you can have this tool at your fingertips. I've also created a video with more information about this practice that has a quick centering activity and journal prompts, which I've linked in the description. Key 5, self-care includes asking yourself what you actually need. It's good to have some established practices available, but actually asking yourself what you need in that moment may offer some surprising results. The way I do this is with dual-handed journaling. I've got more information linked in the description, but in a nutshell, this method offers more direct access to your feelings without being filtered through mental sensors that tend to edit the
message to fit into the life structure that you've got established.
As an example, I wanted to offer myself some relaxation after a stressful day, give myself a self-care practice. When I asked myself what I wanted to do, the word I heard in my head was water. And so I assumed that a hot bath was what I needed because it's one of my go-to practices, but it didn't quite feel right. So when I went to my journal for clarification, the answer from my non-dominant hand was, not a bath, you need water. Your body is dehydrated and feeling anxious because you are not giving it what it needs. How simple. That was such a simple solution. If you try this, you may get a response that you weren't expecting, but if you can say yes, and if it checks off all of the boxes that I listed a few moments ago, then go for it. Key 6, self-care includes letting others know what you need. When starting a new practice that may have an effect on the people around you, it's a good idea to let them know what you were planning and asking for assistance if it's needed. It's okay to ask for help. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to say yes, because the people that love you want you to be happy. So if keeping the kiddo away from the bathroom door while mama's taking a bath means a happier mama, then you're likely to get support. Taking baby steps also applies to others. If your practice will have an effect on them. By starting small, it will give others the time to see the positive results of your practice, and if your results have a positive effect on them, on those that are assisting you, then you'll likely have loyal supporters that will help you whenever you need. Step 7, self-care is sharing the fruits of your practice with others. This can mean a few things, but most importantly, It means sharing the rewards of your self-care practice with those who are supporting your journey. It could also mean including a loved one in one of your self-care practices. It could mean offering your support in someone else's self-care journey. Or it could mean sharing your good mood with others by letting someone go ahead of you in line, or complimenting a stranger when you notice something nice, or dropping $1 on the ground. Sharing can also be a helpful self-care practice when you are needing a boost. Have you noticed that if you are in a sour mood and you're expressing that out into the world, it tends to express that back at you, creating a negative feedback loop? Kindness is the same way. When you share kindness, it sets up a feedback loop that is nourishing not only to you, but to the environment that you are engaging with. I may never know what a kind gesture or how a kind gesture is spreading, but I imagine it setting off a cascade of kindness, or it positively changing the trajectory of another person's day. And that little moment of daydreaming has become a powerful moment of self-care. If you found this information helpful, be sure to subscribe to the Joy Spring and hit the bell icon to get notified when I post new videos like this one. Now, on to my favorite part. This week's activity was developed using dual-handed journaling, which is a key element of the Creative Journal Expressive Arts method. And this particular activity involves writing out the following questions with your dominant hand and allowing the answers to come through your non-dominant hand, which offers a more direct route to your emotional body. I always begin my journaling workshops with a dual-handed journaling activity, so I would recommend that you do the creative warm-up activity video to help get your non-dominant hand warmed up. If you don't yet have a self-care practice in mind, write down this first question with your dominant hand. What can I do to offer myself some self-care? And then answer it with your non-dominant hand. Then you can filter the answer through the 3 essential questions that I laid out earlier, or you can use those questions on an existing practice that you feel could use some tweaking. First question is, will this bring me joy? Will this cause no harm or undue stress to myself or others? Will this nourish my body, mind, and soul? If any of these questions result in a non-dominant hand no, then respond to the no by writing out the following last question with your dominant hand. What can I do instead? Then respond with your non-dominant hand. If you are entirely new to the concept of dual-handed journaling, it may be helpful to work through the Calm activity video to get comfortable with the concept. Just follow the link in the description. I know I'm just scratching the surface of self-care with this video, so if there's a self-care topic that you would like me to discuss, leave a comment, and feel free to share this video with anyone you feel would benefit from the 7 keys of self-care. Have a wonderful day.